Good morning, everybody. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear participants, let me welcome you to the first info session in North Macedonia, which we have announced during the national launch event. So thank you for taking your time and being with us today. My name is 𝗪𝗲𝗏 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶. I'm part of the Regional Challenge Fund Management Unit as a regional coordinator for Albania, Kosovo, and North Macedonia. And I'll be moderating this webinar today. In order to have a pleasant experience and to have as less flows as possible during this session, we also have our technical support team with us, and I will invite Alexandra to share some recommendations for the webinar.
Thank you, Mr. Vasily.
Thank you, Alexandra.
Dear attendees, welcome to the info session of the Regional Challenge Fund in North Macedonia. The webinar provides interpretations in Macedonian. Click the interpretation icon, globus icon on the Zoom toolbar to activate simultaneous translation. Choose Macedonian audio channel. You may mute the original sound by the Mute Original Audio button in the language menu. You may ask questions in the chat or Q&A box. To ask a question in the chat, choose during the webinar to all panelists and attendees option. The questions will be answered during the webinar. If time left, some of the attendees will have a chance to join live program and ask their questions live. It is recommended to ask questions after the panelists finish their presentations. Please check if the audio settings on your Zoom application are set up correctly. To do that, click on the arrow beside the microphone button on the lower left corner of your screen and choose Test Speaker and Microphone. If you are experiencing technical difficulties hearing the webinar, please check your audio settings. You may contact technical support via chat or info@rcf-wb6.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. And thank you for also announcing the options that attendees in this webinar have to ask their questions, be that in the Q&A session or by asking live question, for which they have to raise their hand, as you explained, and I will give them the word after we finish our presentations. As the video has shown, the Regional Challenge Fund aims to strengthen the labor market relevance of vocational education and training by funding investments in equipment and infrastructure for training providers who engage in cooperative training activities with partnering enterprises. By working with both VET providers and the private companies, it seeks to raise the overall quality of VET and align it with the needs of labor markets in the individual countries in the WB6 throughout the region. This will support increased employability of young people and graduates and contribute to economic growth and regional integration. The Regional Challenge Fund is commissioned by the German government to 𝗓𝗪𝗏, the German Development Bank, and is being executed by the Western Balkan 6 Chamber Investment Forum. Well, this is a joint initiative of chambers of commerce from WB6 countries. The chambers established this platform of cooperation in 2017 to provide a joint voice to the business community in the region, facilitating inter-business contacts and promoting the region as one investment destination. In North Macedonia, CIF is being represented by the Economic Chamber of Macedonia, and we have here with us Ms. Tatjana Štejova. So thank you, Tatjana, for being with us today. The operational and financial management of the Regional Challenge Fund is delegated to an implementation consultant of a consortia of 4 international companies and institutions, namely IPC, Planco, Swiss Contact, KPMG, who have a combined extensive experience with the professional management of large projects, including VET ones, and a very extensive regional footprint with local presence and large network within public and private sector in the region. The fund management unit is the core operational entity of the fund. I'm glad to introduce here today my colleagues, Mr. Frieder Werman, the team leader, and Mr. Pavel Kapsdorfer, the regional coordinator, who together with me will be assisting you with the questions. So I would like to start a short presentation on eligibility and selection criteria and the application process. Just give me a second to share my presentation. I think it's visible. Great. So who can apply for the support? Who are the eligible entities and eligible institutions to apply for support from the Regional Challenge Fund? The regional, just a second. The Regional Challenge Fund will will finance the needs of VTI's consortia. So the VTI consortia is being formed by public or private educational institutions of all levels, associations, providers of vocational education and training, which through their training programs certify the occupational standards, and that leads to a publicly recognized qualification. The consortia will have one VTI, as I explained, and a minimum of 2 companies, regardless of the sector size, that offer learning through work within their company and who are willing and able to join the cooperative training program. They jointly improve, so the aim of this consortia is they jointly improve an existing program or plan to participate in dual education. And in this consortia, the leading role stays with the vocational education training provider or institution. What are the eligibility criteria that this consortia should fulfill in order to be able to go through the selection process to receive the financing? So that consortia will comprise, as I mentioned earlier, of at least 1 vocational training institute and at least 2 enterprises. The partners in the consortia are only represented in 1 project proposal per call. The Regional Challenge Fund funded cooperative training projects provide training places for at least 15 learners in the first year and 15 learners in the second year of the program. Partnering enterprises commit to offer sufficient workplace learning as well as teaching capacities. RCF-funded cooperative training projects are open to all ethnic groups, so there should be no discrimination about the ethnicity of the groups of students participating in the vocational education training. Cooperative training coordinators are appointed by each consortium member, and we'll explain this in case you have any question related to that later on. Consortia ensure that accident insurance for all trainees is provided in line with national regulations. Consortia members operate in compliance with Regional Challenge Fund occupational health and security and environmental and social management guidelines. We'll talk later where you will find these documents in the application section in our website. Consortium members consent to publishing good practices and share knowledge with RCF stakeholders. VTIs joining the consortia are licensed by the relevant national authority. Private VTIs are accredited by the relevant national authority. By licensing and accreditation, we mean that this institution should be certified by the respective authority. In this case, in North Macedonia, the Ministry of Education. Consortia are based on a cooperative training partnership, which is documented in a memorandum of understanding between the participating parties. And again, along with the other key documents, you will find that in the website. We'll be talking for that later on. Cooperative training projects funded under the RCF lead to a nationally recognized qualification and are in line with the applicable national qualification frameworks. So the certificate and diploma issued by the vocational training institutes should be acknowledged and recognized on a national level. The proposed project does not increase the number of training places at the partnering VTI by more than 50%. Consortium members agree to disclose their financial status during the application phase. This applies to both VTI and enterprises. Consortia have received a support letter from the relevant authority confirming their commitment to support the VTI during the implementation of the project and the delivery of the proposed cooperative training. We've been receiving several questions so far. One, what this letter of support is. We'll explain that letter, but shortly, this is a letter issued from the authority who is in charge of the VET providers on a national level. It could be in the case of North Macedonia, maybe Tatiana will explain later, especially this part, the Ministry of Education or the municipality who is in charge of the budget allocation for the vocational education training provider in that specific city or region. What are the measures supported by the Regional Challenge Fund? So what do we finance and support? We finance investments needs for the improvement of workshop infrastructure and equipment. Another important, let's say, element of the investment needs is the VTI teacher training, and that aims the, let's say, increasing and enhancing the capacities of VTI teachers. Consumables and resources for training in the educational institutions is another measure which is supported by the RCF financing. Equipment for safety and health of students and trainers in the company, and continuous advisory support. That, I mean, it's worthwhile to explain. Advisory support from RCF will apply after the VTI consortia is being approved the grant, and that would be accompanied with support in adapting cooperative training education to the new reality, meaning for the VTI consortia to upgrade their internal capacities, curricula, training program in order to match the fast-paced technological development of the business reality in North Macedonia. The usage of funds is envisaged to finance adequate training facilities and equipment at VTIs by provisioning financing for rehabilitation and extension of training-related workshop facilities and or the procurement, repairment of training equipment, provided that equipment and facilities are owned by the VTI. So we are talking here for the both existing equipments who need further improvements, and for purchases of new equipment and machineries that are needed by the training program. Investing in practical work experience of that teacher by enabling them to directly get involved in VTI consortia, to spend time in enterprises, and to gain insights into the organizational technical aspects of the work performed. Funding of pedagogical training of the teachers and or both in company trainers. Another component of the usage of funds is the purchasing of training material very much needed for practical training in VTIs as required within the scope of the curricula and the cooperative training between the VTIs and the enterprises. Covering of expenses for consumables to a limited extent relating to the implementation of the planned city project, and support to related aspects such as occupational health and safety standards, provision of appropriate working conditions for learners, formation of vet teachers and the company trainers, both at the VTIs and the enterprises. Which are the activities that are non-eligible and therefore are not supported by RCF? Purchase of equipment which is not directly related to the establishment of a new or upgrading or extension of existing cooperative training program, that is not eligible. Activities that the VTIs already implements will not be financed. Only activities that provide a new value-added component of city program to the partners' normal activities will be supported. And the normal operating costs of VTIs or partner enterprises will not be supported. That is, I'm saying that to anticipate the questions that I'm sure that we'll receive later. Are the learners' remuneration or allowances being supported by the program, by the RCF? No, as long as they fall into the category of standard operational cost of the VTIs. The process of the application, so starting from the first call and until the approval of grantees. So we started, as most of you are aware and participated also in the national, regional and the national launch event. The first call for expression of interest is open since February 1st. And that will end by the end of April. So it leaves a period of 90 days for the consortia to prepare their submission of the expression of interest, having enough sufficient time during this period to negotiate, agree, and find the let's say the appropriate partners to form the consortia. During this period, following the national launch event in North Macedonia, we have this info session today, and we continue with the tutorials by the end of March and beginning of April, so that we make sure that all information is equally accessible from all interested parties in this project, in the Regional Challenge Fund. We expect that by end of May, we go through and finalize the appraisal of the expression of interest. Shortlisted applicants will be invited to submit project proposal. And the project proposals will have a time slot of 2 months. So VTIs have around 60 days to prepare the projects of proposals and to submit them by the end of July. And the evaluation of project proposal will end by the end of August. It's worth mentioning here that the selection will be made by international selection experts of the consultant consortia. And during September, we envisage to negotiate with the approved grantees. So during that period, we'll negotiate the funding agreement, and that will be completed by the signing process. So it's a quite, I mean, or not quite, but relatively long process that we'll go through during the next months. And we managed, we tried to leave enough time for each of the process phases, so that the VTI consortia have all the time needed to prepare, starting from the expression of interest and project proposal. And I would like to say here as well that we will be available during this time to support you with the question and inquiries for the process itself. With regards to the selection criteria, this is as well important to be mentioned. Here, I will not touch all of them, as they are quite long. You'll find the selection criteria document in the website, but I'll just take the few the key ones. Both VTIs and cooperating enterprises take joint responsibility for planning, implementation, and monitoring of the project and the proposed cooperative training program. So this has to be considered by both VTI and the enterprises as a joint, it's joint activity, and they have to, let's say, put all their efforts to implement a successful cooperative training program, which will fit the needs for skilled worker of the enterprises, but at the same time will make the VTI's curricula and training program matching the needs of the private sector. RCF-funded cooperative training programs shall comply with all approved national occupational standards. That's why we mentioned in the beginning that it is important for us that there is no, let's say, criteria that or exclusion of vocational training institutions. So we, both public and private ones, have access to the project, but it is important that they comply with the national qualification framework. During in-company training phases, and this is very important, the trainees shall be actively involved in the work process and shall thereby acquire practical workplace relevant skills. The cooperative training concept is innovative and shows a scale-up plan for the overall VTI. Funded programs contain a concept for career guidance and counseling of learners for their, let's say, integration in the labor market. We've been actually receiving questions so far, and I'd like to mention that are enterprises participating in a VTI consortia obliged to employ the learners after they finish the training program? Well, let's say the end goal of the Regional Challenge Fund is to foster employability of young people. And we assume that the enterprises that are part of the VTI consortia, they have the need for skilled workers, and they want to shape their let's say, their skills according to the business needs. So it goes without saying that it would be in the interest of the enterprises to have those students being employed at the end of the project. Funded programs include a high proportion of women and/or vulnerable groups as part of the learners. I mentioned this earlier. There should be no discrimination between ethnic groups, gender, or vulnerable groups. Regional Challenge Fund funded programs are operative according to efficiency criteria and effectively contribute to the main RCF objectives. VET consortia will co-finance the cooperation training projects by making a matching contribution of at least 10% of the total requested funding amount. The contribution may be provided financially and/or in kind to the coverage of operational costs and/or investment costs. In case we have a question, I will elaborate further about the matching contribution, but we'll find in the website the document which provides a clear instruction on how the matching contribution will be calculated. The training concept for vocational teachers of partnering VTIs and in-company trainers is appropriate. Yes, it should be in line with the curricula. The training program and the curricula itself should be in line with the, let's say, the needs of the private sector. The selection criteria, we have grouped them in the three main categories. The conceptual criteria, so what will the international selections experts will be looking at after the VTI submit the project proposals. We're looking to key and important criteria like the VTIs and cooperating enterprises take joint responsibility for planning. So the consortia should, in a way, show their, let's say, willingness to cooperate for the duration of the program. RCF funded cooperative training will comply, we mentioned that, with national occupational standards. Within consortia, enterprise-based training phases shall increase as a result of the RCF funding, and we expect that to the cooperative training program to be more focused or oriented toward practical learning. I'd like to see that at least 25% of the curricula takes place on the business premises. However, it's worth explaining here that it depends significantly on the curricula and the program already approved by the respective authorities. For certain programs, 20% practical learning is required. For some others, 30 or 40%. But we would like to see in the cases that the minimum is too low, that the city program moves towards a 25% practical learning experience. With regard to the those we call ambition criteria, funded programs reflect labor demand and workplace requirements, in particular of small and medium-sized companies. The cooperative training concept is innovative, shows a scale-up plan for the overall VTI. Funded programs contain a concept how to ensure employment of learners after graduation. And yeah, again, repeating here, the should be no discrimination between ethnic groups and gender and vulnerable groups. It is important as well to note on the feasibility criteria. So those programs that are being funded are operating according to efficiency and contribute to the overall objectives. Training concept for the vocational teachers of partnering VTIs is appropriate. It's worth actually mentioning here the operation maintenance concept. Just a second. Ensure sustainable operations and an adequate level of regular maintenance for buildings and training equipments. Therefore, getting back to my previous slides, we asked the letter of support for the respective authorities that should show the continuous support of the VTI and for the VTI to be, let's say, sustainable during the duration of the training program of the project. What kind of projects are desirable or let's say preferred by the regional challenge fund? Those, not to repeat, but those who implement cooperation between VTIs and companies, meaning joint planning and implementation of the cooperative training projects. Those projects that enable outreach of students. The number of available training places justifies the investments, and therefore we've set certain criteria on that. I explained earlier. Criteria related to the to the capacities of the students of the training places compared to the existing capacities of the VTIs. The existing programs are being improved or new programs are being introduced, so they must have the innovative aspect, the innovative element in it. Capacity building is also important for the project to have as an element, capacity building of institution itself and individuals, including students, teachers, and in-company trainers and instructors. And the sustainability of project results after the support from the RCF. And this is very important for the consortia to continue their cooperative training activities also after the end of the RCF. The application package, so which documents, and now we are talking for the expression of interest phase, which documents are needed to be worked on, prepared, and submitted by the VTI consortia. It starts with the expression of interest. This is an online application. Maybe my colleague Pavel will explain later, and we'll talk a bit more details about that. The application will be done through the RCF webpage in the dedicated section for application. Along with the expression of interest, the consortia will have to prepare and sign a memorandum of understanding with the consortia partners, meaning VTI and enterprises, and also if it is deemed necessary, other partners that might join the consortia. Then the letter of support from the authorities that I mentioned earlier. Three other documents are also important to be first to go through from a consortia and to try to understand the requirements there, which is the RCF guideline on environmental and social management, the RCF occupation health and safety guideline, and exclusion list of activities available from KfW. The section, as I mentioned, the expression of interest is an online application, so the preparation of the application will be done through the 𝗪𝗪𝗃 web page and a dedicated section there. And this is where you find it in the website. And with regards to the upcoming activities so what we did so far in North Macedonia and we plan for the next week, the launch of the first call, as we mentioned, started on February 1st. On 23rd of February, we had the national launch event. First info session is taking place today as we speak. The second one is planned for on 23rd, so in 2 weeks from now. And by the end of March and in the subsequent week of April, we'll start with the tutorial sessions in which we plan to provide more technical and detailed information for the preparation of the project proposals and to address also those questions that are not being addressed during the info sessions and which are more of a technical nature. So that's the end of my presentation. You can contact me at the email shown here and which you find in the web page, and I would encourage all of you also to have a look at our social media in Facebook and LinkedIn to get more information for the upcoming events and regional challenge fund activities. So thank you for taking the time to listening to the presentation. It's time maybe now to take some questions, and I'll see here from the attendees that have raised their hands. Start to Mr. Nikolov. We don't hear you, Mr. Nikolov. Try to unmute, please. Possible? We don't hear you, unfortunately, so I'll jump to another. Mr. Yankov. Can you please unmute? We don't hear you.
Hello, no question. No questions. Thank you for.
Thank you. Mr. Ivan.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Ivan from Coastal Macedonia. I have two questions related to the eligibility criteria. The first one is that we can see actually in the application or the form or the letter of interest that one of the questions for the members of the consortium is, were there positive financial result from the previous year. Knowing that the previous year was a pandemic year, this question is controversial, maybe a little bit. So, concrete question is this a criteria for eligibility, or how can you evaluate, how will you evaluate in the second phase? This even more knowing that big investment companies that are new in the region from Germany or wherever else have this model of investing in the first 3 to 5, 6 years without showing positive result, and then there is a leap for profitability in the following phases. So this is my question that I'm keen to know the answer. The second question is, how will you follow overlapping with other projects of the schools or subsidies that they can get or they are getting from the, I don't know, other sources of state aid or educational program? Is there indeed in this some limitation for the schools and for the companies as well?
Frieder, do you want to take that question, or shall I?
Yeah, I take the one on the profitability. So the concern was, and I think it's indeed a very valid question now, especially in times of the pandemic, is that we would like to make sure that companies are sustainable and also still there after 1 or 2 years. And the easiest always to ask for no losses. What we will do indeed, we will have a careful look at the financial statements, and if it can be made plausible that the company, or as well the VTI, is economically sustainable, we will definitely consider that. So it is not a hard criteria. So we will not exclude anybody if there is a small negative result for the last year and maybe as well for the current year. That will be taken into consideration for sure. And then the question with regard to the to other subsidies, you are aware that most of the VTIs are supported through the state budget. That is okay. That is also expected. So this would not have any impact on the eligibility for the RCF. It's a little bit even the idea to create synergies. So if, for example, a VTI is cooperating already with an international institution in the area of vocational training, it is fine to, if it's additional, if there's certain additionality, to apply as well at the RCF, for example, for the installation of a certain equipment or the rehabilitation of a workshop. Also, this is not not excluded. On the contrary, it is even something we're looking for to create these synergies with other projects. Answering your question to some extent.
Yes, can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
But technically, will you ask for the local subsidiary final statement or the corporate statement? It's important to know in advance because some family-owned companies must know in advance which statement you will ask in the estimation phase.
No, we look at we look at the financials of the subsidiary. So it is not, we're not giving a credit. It's not a financial transaction in that sense. We just would like to have a certain idea of the financial stability. So, and if there are 100% foreign ownership, we will not necessarily look at the financials of the foreign companies.
Thank you for the answers.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ivan. I'll give the word to Miss Tanya Jovanovska. Can you please unmute, Tanya? We'll move to another participant, Mr. 𝗧𝗵𝗶.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I have two questions. First one is regarding the ownership of the private entities, private companies, which should be included in the training program. Is it possible one person to be owner 100% of the one company and to be owner 30% of the second company? And if it's in collision with the interest of the project, I think it is. But I should know how is the attitude of the whole project and the fund. And the second question is the transfer of knowledge, because it's international project. Is there any possibility our company has international partners to include some of our partners from Germany, let's say, or from other countries to come and to participate in this training? That's it. This is the second question.
Mm-hmm. But do you want to take it, or?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. But with regard to the ownership of two companies, that's in principle possible. There's no direct conflict of interest if the two companies joining the consortia are partially owned by the same person. That is fine. It is a little bit more controversial, and would have to look into it if the VTI, so the Vocational Training Institute, and the company are owned by either the same person or the same company. Yeah, that would be something we would have to discuss in detail. That has to take place at arm's length, and this we would definitely have some questions. And with regard to the involvement of international partners, yes, very much welcome. It is something that we very much encourage, especially with the international background. Can as well take place on a regional level, but it would have to be included somehow in the project proposal. To what extent these international partners contribute to the training or the education. But I guess you will find a way of making the argument that is added value to the training quality in cooperation with the school.
Thank you very much. That's it. That's all I want to know. Next candidate.
I'd like to give the word now to Mr. 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Hello, Victor.
Do you hear me now?
We hear you very well.
Yes, my name is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 this program, the aim of this program is by vocational training institution in partnership with the companies from the real sector to establish department of the company which will deal with training. Am I right with this? So the training department will stay within the company, but the training institution will organize the training and transfer the knowledge to the company. So I have two questions. First question is it possible to have two vocational institutes in the consortium and also the companies? And second question is, when this training center is established, are the services to the clients must be free of charge, or there has to be charging for this education?
Very briefly, with regard to the second question, it it doesn't have to be free of charge. Yeah, so we will have a look at the business model of the schools of the VTIs, and private ones can as well be for profit. What will be relevant is indeed a valid and sustainable business plan, and in this regard, even for the sustainability, if it's possible to charge for a certain training, I would say even better. Because that is a market response, and yeah, if someone is willing to pay for training, it's in a certain way also a quality sign. So that is not a precondition, and so it doesn't have to be free of charge. And yes, it can as well be two VTIs. We would usually expect a leading VTI, which is organizing the consortia and the application, but it can as well include a second VTI. And of course, several companies anyway. So we would rather, the 2 companies is the minimum. We would be happy to have 3 or 4 or 5 companies joining the consortia.
So as I understand, there has to be international cooperation within the Western Balkan 6 region, and it has to be, it may be, not it has to be, but it may be, for example, for the same consortium, we can have entities from different countries in the region, or and then we may have at least 1 vocational training institute and at least 2 companies.
Correct, yeah. So it can be from the region, that is encouraged, but it's not necessary. And it's also not a requirement to have an international component. Yeah, so if it is completely located in North Macedonia, so with the VTI and the companies, that's also fine. But international cooperation is usually considered adding value only in this regard.
For example, in this training process, we may have, or it's good to have some recognized certificate. And if in that case, in Macedonia, there is not a body or there is not entity who can issue that kind of certificate, and in neighboring Western Balkan countries, there is someone who can do it, then we may have cooperation. For example, the one instance will have the education, and another will have the testing and the approval of knowledge, and the infrastructure of the training process will be within the beneficiary companies from real sector. So am I right with
that? Is already yes, that is correct. That it's rather the exception. So what we rather would expect is that the training course that you are offering together is certified and accredited by the Macedonian relevant authority. But if you can, again, in the project proposal, if you argue that it is not existing in North Macedonia and that the certification that you have acquired is of high quality, either from another state or from an international body, we will accept that.
Yes, because here we have some, I wouldn't say problem, but I will say incapability, because there is lack of accredited body, officially accredited body by Macedonian Institute of Accreditation for training of personnel. So that might be limited if we want to have a training and issue internationally recognized certificate. So that might be a limiting factor, but however, we may. It is not an obstacle. It is not significant obstacle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. As I said, internationally recognized certificate, will also be taken into consideration.
For example, for welders, or for example, for some kind of professional who will need it for the company to be involved in international cooperation activity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. As I'm looking at the Q&A session, thank you very much to Pavel and Tatiana for answering almost all the questions, every question there. And we managed also to give the word to the attendees who raised their hands to ask the live questions. I would like now to give the word to my colleague, Pavel, who will guide us shortly through the online application for the expression of interest. So Pavel, the word is for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Renato. Good morning, everybody. Let me share my screen as well to guide you through my presentation. And first of all, I want to say the purpose of this presentation is not really go into the details of the grant management portal, but just to give you some idea about the portal, about the structure, about some important elements of the application and submission of the working, editing, and submission of the application. The details will be discussed and presented in future when we plan also some tutorial sessions. And although I hope there will be not too many questions because the system is really quite self-explanatory. There is a lot of guidance within the system, and it's indeed quite intuitive to work with. So how do you get access to the management portal? As Renato already mentioned, on our website at the top of each page, you have a button, Apply Online. And if you push this button, you will get redirected to the screen of Grant Management Portal, where you can follow the instructions and you can register yourself and get access to start to work on your application. When you open up your application, you will get to summary page, and this summary page gives you list of all sections which you will need to complete before you can submit your application. So you see here there are 9 sections. You can work on each section, let's say anytime you want. It's not mandatory to follow the sections, so from 1 to 9, but you can fill up the information in different orders. At the top of each page here, you will see always the instructions, what is expected from you. So when you go into individual sections at the top of the page, you will see some guiding notes, some instructions, what you should fill up and what is expected from you. On the summary page, next to this 9th section, you see 2 buttons at the top of this table, the application and also participants. Participants here means enterprises which are members of the 𝗏 consortium. And then I will also explain about them a little bit later on. But I wanted to show you how, let's say, intuitive the system is. That, for example, if you go to section 1, which is about eligibility criteria, then you have list of questions which you need to answer, and if you answer incorrectly or not in a way that you would be eligible for the project, the system will automatically give you the pop-up automated message which will inform you that in case your reply stays as it is, you will be not eligible to submit an application to RCA. This is very similar also with other sections where if you not fill up certain answers or boxes which are mandatory, these mandatory boxes are always marked up with an asterisk, then you will, before you would like to leave the section, you will get an automated message that particular sections or boxes have been missed, and you will need to complete them before you will be able to submit the application. You can always save in progress work and return it later on to it. So it's not necessary that you need to complete the whole section, and only then you will be able to continue to work with the system. So you can semi-finish it, and then you can continue next time when you have the information available to complete the section. And now I would like to go back to these two tabs, applications and participants, on the summary page. So the idea is that the VTI as a leading partner is requested to provide the entries for required information and data, but all invited, partnering enterprises which are member of the consortia must approve the information, must approve the application before its submission. So therefore, here with the top participants, you will get at the bottom this section with enterprises, and you will need to invite the members of the VET consortium, and you will receive the message or the box with the screen with the box for the email, where you can let the enterprise that you are sending in the email due to their membership, due to their participation in this project proposal, and you are asking them to register in the system and get into the application, review it, and confirm that they agree with the submitted information. We do recommend, as the enterprises will have an access only to their sections where they can edit and review their own information, they will not have access to other sections. We do recommend that the VTI is going to complete the whole application, and the invited enterprises are going just review this information and confirm through that button, which they will see, and it is also mentioned here in the instructions. It's called Finish Contribution button, where they will see some little declaration and will need to basically confirm their participation in the project. After all of them, if there are two of them, if there are more, you will need to invite more of them. After all of them will confirm their participation, only then the leading applicant, the VTI, will be able to submit the application to RCF. The deadline for submission of the currently open call for expression of interest is Friday, 30th April, and each applicant after submission is going to be notified via email. That will be basically an acknowledgement email, so then you are sure that your application has been registered and recorded in the system. After submission, all registered parties of the VET consortium will be able to log in and view the information which are stored in the application, but you are not going to be able to modify it anymore. And this is also valid for all applications after the deadline will pass. After the review of the applications, each applicant is going to be notified about the result of the application review. And those who are going to be approved, the applicant will be invited to submit the full project proposal. If you are going to have any questions regarding the application, then you can direct them to the email, which is also seen on this screen. So it's applications@rcf-wp6.org, and we will try to assist you to help you with any queries you might have. So thank you very much for your attention, and we will go further, into details and different screens in our tutorial session, which, in case you will decide to apply or to register, we already see a number of parties and organizations which register into system and started to look around. We will be ready to help. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Pavel, for the presentation and for guiding us through the application form that participants and potential applicants will find in the in the website. I will invite them if there is any question with regards to the application form. Not really. No other question for the time being. So it looks like everything was very clear since in the beginning to all of participants, which is good. Thank you, Tatiana, for answering those questions there in the Q&A session. Actually, I'm going to answer one that I cannot answer in typing right now. What is the role of the enterprises? Should they support by providing employees as practical teachers? Yes, I explained in my presentation the role of the enterprise being engaged or being part of a VTI consortia is to be engaged in a cooperative training program, which would be jointly designed and planned with the Vocational Training Institute. Yes, the role of the enterprise is to provide technical education on the job for the learners of that specific program. How the enterprise does this, and this is one of the requirements and eligibility criteria. They have a coordinator of the program being appointed at the level of the enterprises, or the enterprises, and also in company trainers. So the training, the teaching, the education, the practical training being delivered to the learners on the job should be provided by in-company trainers. It's worth explaining here something that I also learned a few days ago, that in North Macedonia, the law on vocational education does not recognize or does not allow other people than licensed or certified in-company trainers to deliver training to learners in the company. And that, I think, is the in-company trainers are being trained and certified by the Economic Chamber of Macedonia. So in that regard, you will find more information for that by getting in contact with the Economic Chamber of Macedonia. Okay. So we'll wait for some more seconds. The info sessions are the way we have organized them, as I explained in the beginning of this webinar. It is important, and it is one of the principles of the fund, that we provide equal information or equal access to information from each and every interested party. And in this regard, we will not have only this one. We'll have another info session scheduled in 2 weeks from now, and then we'll continue as I presented with the tutorials. But I would encourage to all participants to take active role in these info sessions and to ask as many questions as they have. I will now give the word to Dejan from AHK. Hi there.
Hi Renato, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. I have one question regarding the eligible training programs. One consortium should be comprised of 2 or more companies. Should all participating companies offer training places in the same profession or qualification, or is it allowed for the companies to offer training places in different qualifications, but which have common ground or common features? Or should all offer training places in the same profession, like mechatronics? Was I clear with the question?
Yes, maybe, yeah, let me come in. I think I know what you are getting at. It depends to what extent the different forms of training, if you have them in the companies, will be relevant for the training course or the training program that is being supported by the RCF. So if it can be argued that, for example, in metal processing, yeah, there are different areas that should be covered, then it's also fine to have these reflect in the practical training differently in the companies. But it has to feed into the applied for training cost. Put it simple.
But how should this notion training program be understood? Is it a qualification, a profession, or is it something else? Is it something more concrete? I don't know. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, it's a qualification accredited or certified by the relevant authority in North Macedonia. So there has to be there's a national qualification framework, and within this framework, we would expect any training course to be recognized.
So, for example, if we have a consortium of 3 companies, but 2 companies train students in mechatronics, but the other one in mechanical engineering, but both qualifications have common features, can they all apply or not? That was the question.
Then you would have to have a training course with a VTI that is combining these 2 occupational fields. If that is the offer of the vocational training institute, it's okay. If it's only for mechatronics, then the other element will not be relevant.
No. I thought that the vocational training institute will offer both qualifications. So both programs will be offered by the VTI.
Pavel, you want to answer? Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. 𝗵𝗲𝗏, I think.
Thank you.
A question?
Hear me? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I am from the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, and I have to say we had troubles with the lawyers at the faculty to discover what licenses and formally recognized qualifications we can offer. So I wanted to ask you actually, because I didn't get a clear answer from my faculty law department, let's say. So you ask for the vocational training institute to be licensed, but we are faculty, we are already licensed from the state to give training or to give education. So can I answer yes, that we are that we are licensed or accredited by the country relevant institution to give this kind of training, or not, because we are faculty? This is one of the questions. The second question is, you say formally recognized qualification or formally recognized certificate we have to give. Who should recognize this? Because as a faculty, we can give diplomas on the end. So our question is, so what should we do with this? Should we only give the diplomas and that's it, or it will be counted because we are state recognized institution that this is licensed, this recognition is already okay with your requirements or not? So that were more my 2 questions, which are, let's say, more or less will discredit us if we can apply or not. or what should we do? Because when I spoke with the law department, they say if we start some kind of officially, let's say, some kind of studies, which will be recognized by the state, that's 1 year or 2 years process maybe. We can give that kind of studies, but that's also 2 years in order to get. So we want to establish a new program, but already have the licenses. That's almost not possible, let's say. Or we can already give them because we are state institution. That was my question. Thank you.
With regard to the faculty status, clearly yes. Yeah, so tertiary education is included, so it doesn't have to have any additional licensing than that. With regard to the diplomas, I think Tatiana answered already in the chat. Which institution is the relevant one for confirming that? Maybe Tatiana, you briefly repeat that because you have the right reference coming from the country.
Да, можем јас да се обратам на македонски. Добар ден од име на Стопанската комора на Северна Македонија до сите. Во однос на прашањето за акредитирањето го дискутиравме повеќе пати. Барањето е да се приложи документ со кој што се потврдува подготвеноста да биде финансирана активноста на установата за средно стручно образование од субјектот што е надлежен. Значи во нашата држава тоа би било Министерството за образование, односно соодветната општина со оглед дека најголем број од државните средни училишта се основани, односно се во некоја форма под надлежност на општините.
Ние не сме училиште, ние сме факултет, Татјана.
Јас генерално одговарам за сите останати. Во вашиот случај треба да имате некаков факт за акредитација при основањето на факултетот од страна на Министерството за образование и дополнителни документи кои што се однесуваат на акредитација на програмите за кои што би аплицирале. Кои што повторно одат под надлежност на Министерството во случај на факултетите.
Ама, Татјана, ние сакаме нова програма да направиме. Како да е таа веќе акредитирана?
Значи, како што објаснија во текот на инфоденот, односно на претходните презентации, треба да биде веќе акредитирана програмата за која што се аплицира.
И да биде нова? Okay, фала.
Maybe I can just come in there with the existing one or the new one. Maybe a hint here. We are operating for 4 years at least. Yeah, and there will be several calls for expressions of interest and applications. So if the accreditation is not available yet, I think it's there's still a possibility to apply for it now and get it in place. If it takes 2 years, that's okay. There will still be calls for the RCF as well at that stage. Otherwise, we would accept at the expression of interest stage, we would say, yes, it is not required to have the accreditation or the certification or the recognition in place. But when signing the funding agreements, this would have to be available. And that's 6 months. And if the 6 months are too short now, then we'll probably go for a call. The next call will be in October, November this year. And then at least 1 call per year for the years to come. So there are more chances to apply at the RTF.
Thank you for your answer. It has more reasonable meaning. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Great.
Thank you, Mrs. Dav. I see that Mr. 𝗧𝗵𝗵 has another question, I think.
Unmute. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I want to help the discussion. So because I was in your position working on international projects as a local consultant in United Nations and European Union, and also in Chamber of Commerce, I'm a member of Macedonia. So the question of mainly professors of the 2 professors who put the questions, I can explain this situation. So in United Nations, I was working on a program of vocational training. In that time, we have a real, but it was 15 years ago, maybe more. In that time, we have problem in Macedonia who to be partner on the project. So there is a law, according to the law for education in Macedonia, and there is a special institution who is approving the educational programs, and this is functioning so for 6-7 years maybe. And this approval of private sector companies and public sector companies like faculties is available, and the whole procedure is not that long. So also because one of the goals of the project is public, to be public, to have more competitors, to have wide and spread interest. If there is a good idea, there is enough time, even a new company to be founded and to go and to propose the program and to be approved by Macedonian Education Ministry and to work on this project. So it's out of mind some faculty not to be accredited. Of course, all faculties are eligible and can be accredited, and on memo of the faculty will be given this certificate after the training. Also, there will be some official letter for this, but is of course, and not only the faculties. I will also encourage the high schools to take part of this. There's in electricity, in mechanical, there is in I don't know, in some medical. There's a lot of high schools who provide a lot of workers on our workforce market. So also this high school can take part for this if there is a good and very good proposal with two companies and this VTI or VAVT to submit this proposal. So, and the idea of whole project is to help Macedonia, as I can understand. And so this accreditation, what is said by the professors, it should be if somebody wants to go to Germany, to Italy, etc., to have some accreditation. But workforce is very problematic nowadays. If you have a local certificates and go there with translation, if you know the work, I'm sure the private company in Italy will accept you that you are a good welder after only the 30 minutes of practical work. So this issue is not so that big for this project. The issue is to make workers here for Macedonia of this project, with this training to produce workforce who will be more competitive, who will give more competitive products on international markets, and to improve the capacity of the companies who will be in the project. So this synergy should be of all three entities, should be take part in the project, and according to the paperwork, I'm sure it should be finished if the good idea is on the table, and this proposal to be sent to you for approval. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. I couldn't summarize better what we discussed so far. So thank you for your encouraging words. And indeed, this is a project for the whole Balkan countries. And as we are in Northern Macedonia now, we have the same goal that we share with all the countries is to increase employability, to make that education more attractive, to give a new window of opportunities to young people in all our countries, and to have a better and more skilled workforce. I thank you all participants being here with us today. I think that we had a very good session and quite good participation from the attendees. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Verman, Tatiana, and Pavel for assisting all participants with answering their inquiries. And I hope we hear from you soon with applications and other questions that you might have. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you in the other events. Bye-bye.